Beautiful like a fresco and fascinating for its idiosyncrasies, Street Fighter III Third Strike is a melting pot of both popular culture and fighting game design. This is the Annotated Third Strike.
And whenever you are ready.
Whoop. All right, take only take. How did we get here? I know, that's a broad rhetorical question. It's important though. Reflection's beneficial. Personally, I don't think we can improve unless we look back on what came before and grow from it, evolve from it. That's what the Street Fighter III games did, Third Strike especially. They took the core of what Street Fighter II codified and changed the way that we think about and during a fighting game. It didn't quite work, so they went back and did it again. That didn't work either, so they gave it more time to consider what they were doing. Out of that reflection and time and tinkering came this game, this masterpiece. But how did we actually get here? Well, it's the people on the right. The credit sequence of any game is a text-based treasure map to its creation. This one, like so many since the early days of the video game industry, is littered with aliases and initials, something publishers would mostly impose upon their developers so rival companies wouldn't poach them. In the earliest days of the medium, credits actually seen in a game were unheard of for just this reason. Until devs like Warren Robin had included his name hidden in Atari's Adventure in 1980, often considered one of gaming's first Easter eggs. Speaking of Easter eggs and unseen content, there's no better place than here to mention a few little nuggets about the game that most never know, like the unused widescreen mode in this and all the Street Fighter III games. You can find those on website The Cutting Room Floor, and while they're accessible for gameplay, they lengthen out the playfield so much that some characters' wall bounce moves like Hugo's Ultra Throw stop working properly. The same website also stockpiled unused voice lines in the game for Urian, Alex, and a few other characters that I'll let you explore for yourself. Another fun fact not often spoken about in this game is that sprites for stun animations are character specific. Some cast members like Ryu and Chun-Li will always see chickens, while Urian and 12 will forever fear the touch of the Grim Reaper. That opens up some fun room for speculation for those that like to read a little bit too closely between the lines. Maybe you've seen that in a video I've already made. Annotations often need footnotes. Probably the most hidden secret is a sprite resembling Doraemon, a famous robotic cat of late 1960s manga fame hidden in Gil's stage. Data miners knew about it for years, but it only appeared recently in actual glitched gameplay thanks to Third Strike's sorcerer and Combo Trials creator Crystal Cube. By far my favorite piece of Third Strike trivia though is this.
Let's go!
This is a voice sample that plays whenever a character's meter hits the threshold for a super art. The actual sound, though, is a sample from the 1966 Batman television show starring Adam West. This isn't the first game to use this voice sample, as it appeared in Irem's 1992 arcade shooter R-Type Leo, and probably piles of things before and after. It's unlikely that any game took it directly from the show, and more so that it came from sound library discs that composers often use to make sampled music. Twitter user Fairly Frequent Fighting Game Facts also mentions Okugawa taking many samples from this Cool in the Gang track, but reminds us that this isn't a confirmed fact. The last piece of the game that we see is an average rating of the player's performance through the arcade mode, showing individual grades for specific opponents. Often the third entry from the right is a blank space, but only if a user didn't fight the hidden Q match. We see this final results screen if a player lets the timer hit 0 on the continue screen too, and gives a final grade based on AI opponents beaten to that point. And with Infinite's final words, the game finally comes to a close. But that's not where I can leave it. I mean, how did we get here? Well, with a few people. Though this series was my own weird passion project, I didn't make it alone. Big thanks goes to Diamond Fight of Retronauts fame for translation assistance. My Japanese is shaky, and their help deciphering some of the more arcane pieces of info from various sources was invaluable. Thanks also goes to Mike Williams of Fanbyte Media and Dr. Brian J. Carr for script assistance. I pride myself in sourcing as much factual, citable information as possible for these videos, but I certainly offer my own opinions, more in some episodes than others. Their help ensured a level of accuracy and care that I might not have been able to offer on my own. Special thanks goes to my Patreon supporters too, especially SSD Ninja, Max, Robert O'Neill, Duke, and Daniel Masterson for hanging with me since the beginning. And finally, there are two people that I can't possibly thank enough, my players, Stephen Dobbins and John Park, who is shooting this right now and is probably freaking out. I'm okay at this game, sometimes more or less okay, but I guess that can depend on the day. I certainly don't know the cast like these two though, and capturing gameplay would have been impossible without their help. They'll always be way more okay at this game than me, and I'm sure the footage reflected that. I suppose that only leaves you. If you're watching this, you've probably stuck around through the whole series, and that's something I can never be able to properly thank. This started as a year-long project, turned into a 2-year project, and then 5. I knew I was biting off more than I could likely chew, but this was a very difficult series to produce, and a global pandemic didn't help matters. Given the sourcing of materials, the time it took to research and write, and then coordination with other folks to put these out in the best manner possible, it got easy to burn out on this, even though I was making videos about something that I love unconditionally. When this series started, Third Strike was still something of a curiosity in fighting game circles. Opinions on the game had begun to soften at that point, but in a post-Street Fighter IV world that kicked off a fighting game renaissance, I felt that the game was misunderstood at best and unfairly maligned at worst. That's one of the reasons I took it upon myself to make this series, and it's been a hard 4 or 5 years. And while I never thought about giving up on this, the shadow of it looming over me made producing them sometimes feel like a chore, maybe more than it needed to be. These days the game gets the respect I feel it deserves, but maybe your mileage varies here. It's okay for us to disagree. I still appreciate that you're watching. We made it here together. And that's how we got here. Great players that have given us thrilling matches like Daigo and Deshiken. Great creators that have kept the game alive through the lean years like Arturo, Automatic, Common. Great minds like the team at Fightcade, making the game accessible to anybody with a computer and an internet connection. Great viewers like you that support work like this. I've said it before that I owe this game something, and it's true. It's helped me meet great people. It's been an outlet for me for tons of frustration in more ways than I care to describe and more times than I care to count. It's been a part of my life for a lot of years now, and it's the thing that I can always circle back to after long breaks and fall in love with all over again. It's pissed me off plenty, but something I can't stay mad at. At this point, I'll probably not go down in tournament history as one of the greats, but that's never really mattered to me. The game can be enjoyed for both what it is and what it can drive you to achieve. It's hard not to love something like that. I hope this series has taught you things that you didn't know. I hope it's shown you some depth into the game's design that you maybe never considered. And I honestly hope that if you're not a fighting game player, or maybe just not a Street Fighter III fan, that it gave you to at least to take it for a test drive, whether you stuck with it or not. Like every great video game, and this one is certainly an all-timer. I feel that there is something in Third Strike for everyone to love, even and maybe especially if that something is different from person to person. You probably have something like that. If not, well, maybe.
Play Third Strike.
Play Third Strike.
Play Third Strike.
Play Third Strike.
It's so good. Play Third Strike.
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 It's a good game.
Try to bring me down, but I got Almighty One on my side, holding it down. It's time I moved on, bigger things, bigger contenders. Get this paper from winning matches and money spenders. Motion picture type, so what's it gonna be? You're tuned in the new world of Street Fighter 3, so I moved on. Now my life is much better, on to bigger things. But we hustle forever, we cut your life short. Plus we thought you was clever, it's all about the family. We stay silent forever, Joe, I moved on. Now my life is much better, now we on some bigger things. But we hustle forever, I cut your life short. Plus you thought you was clever, it's all about the family. We stay silent forever. Yeah.